Hello and welcome to the MLB DFS Slate Breakdown for Monday, April 1st. We got April Fool's Day, so watch out for those jokes that will be everywhere. Now, we're going to start off by going over yesterday's slate a little bit, then jump into today's main slate. Now, before we get into it, come join us at LineStar. $39.99 per month gets you access to everything we do. All the props, all the DFS, one low price, or you can just jump on for a year at, a savings of $19.99 per month. So big discount there. Now let's get into it. We got 7 games tonight, but let's start off by yesterday's FanDuel perfect lineup. We got, it was a Royals day. Brady Singer was the pitcher. Then we got Sal Perez and Bobby Witt, who both just went absolutely nuts. They went nuclear, as did the Royals, putting up 11, I believe it was. And after that, it was all one-offs. And the winning lineup had surprisingly did not have Singer, even though Singer put up 21 more points. But what it did have was Altuve putting up 80, Benson putting up 34. It had the good old KC stack with a Cincinnati two-man stack. Cincinnati three-man stack, and then that Houston with Altuve, who had pretty much all of their offense. So nice work by Dalladino. You got it done. 25K richer, and let's get over to DK. So on DK, we had Detmers and Singer, and then a 3-man Royal stack and one-offs after that. And the winning lineup, once again, flattery, got it done, and then Singer. So, and then with that, no surprise, got a KC 5-man stack here. And then one-offs from that. So good old 5-1-1-1 lineup for the Mish. Won him $100,000. Congrats. Now let's get into today's slate. All right. So high-owned pitchers. It is a bit of a wild pitching day. Nobody really looks that great, but can't hate Tanner Huck versus Oakland. So far, Red Sox pitching has been pretty good, and Oakland has been very bad. So that's the big thing here. No surprise that they are going fairly high owned. It is a decent spot. He's moderately priced. Only issue here is he really isn't that great of a pitcher, and his K rate is only 21%. So not super high ceiling in this, but Oakland is striking out at 25%. So fairly interesting there. Then we got Sean Manaea versus a Tigers team that isn't very good as well. Now, Manaea does have some upside. We have seen him put together some real big K games, but generally only a 23% K rate, so slightly better than Huck, but he's also cheaper. So I would say he is a bit interesting here on DraftKings, and also in a very good matchup. The thing with Manaea is, you've never known what to expect from him over the last few years. So I do like the spot. A little worried about his ownership just because of how inconsistent he can be, but he's fairly interesting. Next, we got Tristan McKenzie. McKenzie is a very good pitcher. 3.26 FIP over his last 20 starts, 26% K rate. So he is definitely, one of the more elite pitchers on this slate. The issue here is he's been out of the game for a while, so not totally sure what we're going to see here. He only pitched 2 games at the end of the year in September and was out most of the season last year. However, he is a good pitcher. Definitely like his spot. Definitely like his suppressed score. Love the team splits for Seattle. Oh, they've just been bad versus righty. So definitely intrigued to go there. And I mean, the Red Sox just beat him up in Seattle with Red Sox pitching is likely mediocre, but did pretty well. So don't mind going to McKenzie. Then we got Reese Olson, Joe Boyle, James Paxton, all of which are fairly interesting. The lower owned ones, the LineStar's liking is Luis Gil. He does have a 29% K rate. Combined K rate is high, but versus a very tough offense. He's cheap enough, though, so if he gets the Ks, it still might work out, and the ceiling is there like no other. Now, I like the matchup. I will take a little bit of Gil. I'm not going to go overboard with him. I just don't prefer this matchup, and it is the highest game total of the night. So that's an interesting spot. Outside of that, I'm pretty much probably sticking with the bigger names here. Joe Boyle does have a decent little strikeout rate of 25%. My worry here is Oakland pitchers have only gone around 80 pitches for their first time around. So I don't think they would let him go more than the vets that have gone. So a little worried about what his pitch count may be. But he does have some upside against that offense. Now, let's get into FanDuel. High ownership here. We got at pitcher, highest owned is James Paxton. Glad we get to cover James Paxton here a little bit. So, he was with the Red Sox last year. Mediocre, mid-4s with a FIP, and he's facing a Giants team that I think is a lot better than what it has been, at least last year or the last couple of years. They definitely have some hitters that can hit. They have high ISO, high WOBA versus lefties, don't strike out a ton. So I think it's a very tough matchup for Paxton. 249 average, decent amount of stolen bases, decent amount of power, solid ISO. I think this is a very tough matchup for the Dodgers, and I don't love Paxton in this spot. I will probably be fading that ownership a little bit. We went over McKenzie. I like that. I like Manaea. Like Huck, and that's mostly probably where I'm going to be going. 6,200 with this 25% K rate is interesting for Boyle too. So that's pretty much where I'm going at pitching on FanDuel most likely. And let's get over to some stacks. As always, get back over to DraftKings. And we'll start off with the highest owned. Highest owned, we got the Cardinals versus Matt Waldron. I think this is a pretty obvious spot where a lot of people are going. Now, one thing I have to say is 85%, owned with a 5-man stack is not very high owned. So do not fade them just because they're high owned. You can absolutely work with that ownership. But it is a good spot. It's a cheap stack, decent value, 2.1x, a lot of power, a lot of speed. Waldron, 5.4 FIP over his last 20 starts. I mean, he hasn't made 20, but it's a good spot. The downside, bad ballpark, limited leverage, but, it is fairly safe, decent ceiling, but not a huge ceiling. Yankees popping up. I do like the Yankees in this spot versus Ryan Nelson, 5.1 FIP. He isn't great, and Yankees just beat Houston. So I think this is definitely a little bit of an upgrade. Yankees are playing well, but Judge still isn't hitting. So if Judge turns it around in this game in a better ballpark to hit than they were just in, that stat could be interesting as well. This Houston matchup versus Bowden Francis is slightly interesting. We know there's big time upside there. So highest projected stacks, of course, it's the Dodgers. Now, Keaton Wynn is good, but he's not going to go that deep into this game, most likely. 4.35 FIP is fine. I think the Dodgers can literally get to any pitchers, especially Wynn. So, very much intrigued. Arizona. So, Lou Gill definitely has that strikeout upside. 4.15 FIP over his last 20. 5.5 over his last 5 starts, but splits are in Arizona favor here. So I think this is an interesting spot where you could have a little bit of Gil. There's big time upside and his price is fine, but I think you can play both sides. This Arizona offense has been very good to start the season, and split wise, they're in a decent spot once again. So don't mind taking some AZ. Also, I think Cleveland's interesting against Hancock. It is, not a hitter-friendly park, but they've been a kind of a pesky offense so far this year. I don't love them, don't hate it. Getting over to the value stacks, Oakland. Tanner Houck, we talked about it. I don't think Red Sox pitching is that good. Tanner Houck is just a decent pitcher at best. He can get got, and he's going at high owned. Some big time leverage here. And this Oakland A's team can score runs in a bunch of different ways. They have some speed, they have some power, they can do a lot of things on the base path. So I don't mind sprinkling in some Oakland if you don't take Houck. Mets versus Olsen, meh, it's just okay to me. Don't mind it, don't hate it. Giants versus Paxton, I am absolutely intrigued in. I think this Giants team can get to Paxton a little bit. So, now, onto the ceiling spot, Dodgers, Yankees, Padres. I think Padres are in an interesting spot versus Kyle Gibson. We know Gibson is kind of boom bust. And that's what makes going to the Padres interesting. They are low owned, and there is big time upside if we're in a Gibson bust game. So definitely a bit intrigued by the Padres. Houston, we've talked about it, definitely intrigued with as well. And lastly, let's just make sure to talk about Toronto. So Toronto against Ronel Blanco. I think this is a very, very interesting spot. People aren't going there. There's nice little leverage. Value's decent with projections. Ceiling is decent. And 5.89 FIP for Blanco over his last 20 starts. 6.545 over his last 5. I think Toronto is a very sneaky, interesting stack. And obviously, I said Cardinals earlier, but that is definitely one of my favorite stacks as well. The only problem here, big downgrade to the ballpark, where ballpark is definitely in the favor for Toronto. And the best ballpark for tonight is Dodger Stadium with Giants versus Dodgers. I think that stack is an extremely intriguing one. Either that or good old Yankees, Diamondbacks, and Toronto, Houston. Those are the 3 highest scoring games of the night. And that'll do it for us, guys. Real quick rundown on tonight's slate. Good luck. Let's win some money. Talk to you guys later. Bye.